You're listening to the Educated Cowgirl podcast, episode 1. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is a very exciting day for me. Not only am I starting this podcast journey with all of you, but I get to share and talk about the animal I love most. Can you guess what I'm talking about? That's right, horses. More specifically, an industry that has blessed me with so much in my life, from my family, my friends, my career, and helped me to become the accomplished woman I am today. Well, at least up to this point. The equine industry. And on this episode, I will be talking to you about who I am and my dream behind what led me to start this podcast in the first place, and my passion for promoting the horse industry and bringing what I think is much needed education to the general public, as well as educate my fellow horse lovers on topics they may not know much about or want to learn more about to make this community stronger for future generations. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl podcast. The first thing I would like to talk about today, and since it is the very first episode, I'm going to give you a little background on who I am and what drove me to start this podcast. I was lucky enough to be born into a horse family, as both of my parents have been involved with the industry and are still involved in different aspects today. I grew up riding and showing American quarter horses my entire life, from the 4-H circuit and AQHA. I feel blessed to have grown up and been raised in such an amazing community and family. I was born in the horse capital of the world, Lexington, Kentucky, so I had a pretty great jump start there. And then at the age of 10, I moved to Canyon, Texas with my family, which at the time I wasn't super thrilled about, just because I had friends in Kentucky that I didn't want to leave. Fortunately, however, that is where I did a lot of my showing on the quarter horse circuit with my quarter horse buckskin gelding, Cinco, or Experiencia de Cinco, is his registered name. It means spirit of 5. We had some great years. He's now 25 years old and living the great retirement life of eating and hanging out in a pasture all day. So he's doing great. Fast forward to college. I received my associate's degree from Laramie County Community College in 2014 in equine science and equine training and management. And then in 2018, I got my bachelor's degree in business administration from Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado. While I was working on my bachelor's, I was actually also working full-time as a barn manager for a quarter horse trainer in Whitewater, Colorado. So I was pretty busy. While I was there, I learned so much, and I gained a lot of practical experience about running a barn and what it actually took. I have also worked with a few young horses in college, and then I've worked for a couple different quarter horse trainers in Colorado. I am a certified riding instructor with the Certified Horsemanship Association, and I teach lessons part-time at a barn in Denver. I'm a photographer, and I am a Equine Association representative with the Arabian Horse Association, And I have done so much more, but if I listed everything, we would be here for a lot longer. I also compete with my quarter horse mare, Caddy, in ranch sorting events, and I assist in working some of the sorting shows. I have also competed in horse judging in 4-H and college, and I judge open shows in Colorado during the spring and summer. As you can probably guess, I have gained a lot of experience in this industry throughout my life. And I continue to learn something new every day as I discover new and exciting things about the industry, other breeds, and disciplines. That is something I love about horses, is how unpredictable your life can be every day, as they are living, breathing creatures with a mind of their own, as we very well know. Which, of course, can make for some very hard days as well that make us question our sanity. Especially this time of year when it's cold and snowy and we might not get to spend as much time in the saddle as we would like. But we still find a way to love it because it's in our blood. Some of the topics I will be covering and talking about on this podcast are things like horse care and ownership, horsemanship, careers in the industry, different disciplines, breeds, showing, rodeo, types of therapies, types of sports medicine therapies, fitness for riders, other educational topics, and more. As I think back on my years as a professional and as a writer, I have discovered that I want to share my passion and love for horses, the community, and the equine industry with others. I am also starting this podcast because I want to help bridge the gap between different disciplines and breeds that seems to be dividing the equine industry. And I hope that with starting this podcast and bringing in different experts and professionals from the industry, that gap can start to close as we educate and learn from each other to help branch this amazing community together. Because at the end of the day, it is all about the horses, regardless of the saddle we ride in or the breed of horse we own. As Clint Black said on a movie called Flicka Country Pride, we may ride in different saddles, but we all get on from the same side, which is probably one of my favorite quotes. The second thing I'm going to talk about today on the podcast is why this podcast is important to me and why I feel it should be important to you as the listener. Growing up, I have always loved seeing the next generation grow, learn, and discover their passions, especially when it comes to horses. And I hope to inspire the next generation of horsemen and women. I also hope that through this podcast and as I research and learn more about the people I bring onto this podcast, I can further my knowledge about the status of the horse industry and how to promote it for the future. As in 2020, during the pandemic, the industry saw a 9.1% decrease in GDP, or gross domestic product, according to the American Horse Council. Comparing that to the 2017 economic impact study done by the American Horse Council, where the horse industry contributed about $50 billion and provided over 980,000 jobs. Whereas, as we know, during the pandemic, we saw a lot of job loss. I hope to bring new educational opportunities to not only the horse community to learn from each other, but also to educate the general public about horses and the industry. I feel very passionate about giving back to an industry that has blessed me with so many amazing horses, friends, family, and has taught me so much. Now, I feel it should be important to you as the listener, not only because of the reasons I just mentioned, but also because whether you ride horses like me and are involved in the industry, or you just want to learn more about horses as someone on the outside, It will hopefully help to inspire you to get involved and help contribute to this community. If I can get just one person to feel inspired by my podcast to become a bigger part of the industry, it would mean everything to me. And the third and final topic I'm going to talk to you about today is who can you expect to hear on the podcast? Now, this is what really excites me the most. I am so excited about the anticipation to hopefully have many amazing people in the industry join me for important conversations about horses and the industry that makes everything we do possible. I feel so motivated by my love for this animal and community to help ensure the future of the equine industry for years and for generations and generations to come. So being able to use a platform like this to educate the general public and the horse community brings me so much gratitude and joy. And I have such a peace from God that this is what I am being called to do. It is so important to have these conversations, to learn from each other on how we can grow the industry and turn the decline of this industry around. I can't wait to collaborate with other professionals and people in the industry that are doing what they love every day with horses in so many different and creative ways, to not only help promote their business, but to pursue what God has called them to do and to discover the many different ways they are helping the horse to be their best and to do their best, and how and why they promote the industry. A few examples of these guests I hope to invite to join me on this podcast are trainers, breeders, equine sports medicine and or therapy specialists, fitness professionals, photographers, and so many more professionals and business owners that can bring their insight into this podcast that I can learn from and that others can learn from as well with their wise words and knowledge to get their ideas on what actions they think we should take to promote the equine industry to continue its future. To conclude this episode, I'm again so excited and grateful to be starting this journey with all of you. I hope we can all learn and come together as a community to promote these amazing horses. Something I heard from my favorite equine photographer, and I've heard a few other photographers say this, but she's the first one I heard say it, was Christy Jones of Christy Marie Photography, and that is community over competition, which has stuck in my head from the minute I heard it. I believe this phrase is so important to remember because we may compete against each other in the arena to win, to earn a living, or whatever it may be, but at the end of the day, we have to come together and remember that the horse always comes first, which is a motto I have lived by my entire life. I again want to say that if I only get one person or a few people to be inspired by my podcast, then I know that God is putting it in the right hands. God gave us the horse, and we need to love, respect, and take care of them for years to come. This industry has given me so many blessings in my life as someone who was born and raised around horses, and I want to give something back. And if you would love to give something back to me, I would love for you to promote this podcast by sharing it on your social media pages and stories. It would also be great to hear your feedback and questions that can only help me to make this podcast better for you. So feel free to leave me a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Also, you can find me on social media at The Educated Cowgirl on Instagram and TikTok, and The Educated Cowgirl Podcast on Facebook. I will also be putting my sources and my social media handles in the show notes. And make sure to look out for a new episode every other Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.